Well, this is Electric Elliot, and welcome to the Melon Underground, Episode 1. Last episode was Episode 0. That's how we do things here. Joe Colon will be with us in a little bit, hopefully, and Chris Van Vechten is MIA. We have no idea where he is. But anyway, I'm here with the Tacoma Urbanist, Erik Bjornson. Erik, thanks very much for coming with us.
Sure, thanks for inviting me.
So Erik has been involved with Tacoma for quite some time now. When did you move to Tacoma?
I went here to go to law school in '92 at what was then UPS Law School. Tacoma had a law school back then down on Broadway, and then it was purchased by Seattle University, by the Jesuits, and then it moved to Seattle. So now Seattle has 2 law schools, and Tacoma has 0.
And where are you from originally?
Bellingham. Grew up in Bellingham, went to Western, and then University of Washington.
Okay. So if you've been involved with the Tacoma blogosphere at all, paid attention to Feed Tacoma or the Frost Park Choctaws, there's no doubt in my mind that you've heard of Erik Bjornson and the Tacoma Urbanist. Erik has been promoting everything, sparking discussion, and really just wedging himself into all of Tacoma. And we certainly thank Erik for that. So tell us a little bit about what interests you in Tacoma. What has sparked your desire to stay here? You're an attorney in town now?
Right, and I guess what got me involved initially, I think I was just like most Tacomans, just kind of enjoying the city and walking around and see what was happening. And then I saw that the city was considering turning the Tide Flats into a regional garbage burning center. And the only criteria, I think I remember it, was that they were going to see if it penciled, meaning if they could make money off it. And so a lot of people, consultants were called in and with Excel spreadsheets, and they were going to bring all the garbage from, I guess, the surrounding states and the area to burn it all on Tacoma. And it was kind of shocking because where I grew up in Bellingham and Seattle, there's no way, they would have even considered it. Never gone through it. So I remember reading, one of the local newspapers, and they said, yeah, we're going to look back at this and see if it pencils, and if it makes money, we're going to do it. So then I wrote my first letter to the editor and opposing it in Tacoma.
To the News Tribune?
Yeah, to the Tacoma News Tribune.
Uh-huh.
And then I actually went to the website, City of Tacoma website, and looked up the different council members who were there and wrote, here I go, wrote to my local officials to see if they would, respond and I said, this just plays into the worst stereotype of Tacoma, even if it, burns cleanly, of, the Tacoma aroma, which was still there, when I went to law school. So.
And it still comes back every once in a while.
Yeah, if the breeze comes just really slow, it'll creep right in from the Tide Flats. Not as bad as it used to be.
I feel like even in the last 4 years, that aroma, which has, honestly, I think, driven a lot of people away from this city, has sort of dissipated.
Yeah, there's still the fear of it. And so I guess it was 2 things that I thought was ridiculous for the city to consider it. First of all, it was the pollution, the smell of it actually being there. And then also it just played into the stereotype of Tacoma that it's just a place where trash is burned or bad things happen. Felons are dumped, garbage is placed, the waterfront's polluted. It just played into that. So I thought it was a real loser gambit that the city was going to do.
I'd like to talk a little bit more about the felons sort of being dumped in Tacoma in a little bit. But while we're on pollution in Tacoma, let's talk a little bit about that. As I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you are aware of this statistic, but I was under the impression and heard that Tacoma's air quality is below the nation's standards, and it's same with water quality. Do you know anything about that?
Well, there's all kinds of course, pollution sites, an untold number of polluted sites and Superfund sites in Tacoma. Ruston, Point Ruston. There's all those kind of things. Yeah, I'm not an expert on it, but from my understanding, Tacoma's fallen down what the pollution standard is supposed to be. So we're under like special monitoring, and this was fought by the city, very hard, and by the port, and they wanted to exempt the port, And the port's been, drug along in the process. They've got, if you go to the website, they probably have a laundry list of things they're doing. But in the end, they've done, too little, too late, and now we've got that designation.
Yeah. And this is something that most people who live in the city probably are not even aware of, would you say?
Well, I think a lot of people are just acclimated to Tacoma being considered polluted and pollution, that there's not the sensitivity that you have like in other cities like Bellingham or Seattle. And so when someone, like I said, the pollution, locating an incinerator here on the tide flats to burn garbage, there's still kind of a resigned acceptance to something like that. It just seems normal still in Tacoma.
What do you know what when we're driving down Ruston Way and getting towards the city, and then you start to see those smokestacks, is that just hot air being blown up into the sky, or what is that?
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure a lot of it's steam.
Yeah.
I'm sure they would, if you brought some of the paper people in, they would say that's just steam and water, and I don't know. Nowadays, I think they are a lot cleaner than they used to be. The pulp mills, a lot of it's just smell. I don't know if there's that much pollution, pollutants that you actually see on there. But there's still, a lot of petro activities happening and burning and things like that.
So we were just joined by Chris the Wedge Van Vechten. Chris, thanks for coming in a timely manner.
Yeah, you know what? It was on my way home, so I'm always glad to stop by.
So, Eric, I was just hoping to ask, you mentioned Point Ruston briefly, and I've been hearing some scary things about the cleanup over there, that some of the workers were not informed what they've been digging up. And if you could, would you give us a little bit of history of what happened at Point Ruston and why we have so much issue there with the pollution and the cleanup and the wave and gloiving?
Sure. Well, that Sarco, that was where one of the most polluted places in the United States
in the world
is in Ruston. And when I was a young attorney, actually, I saw all this class action lawsuits of about people's yards. They've dug up a foot or so of everybody's yard all around and things like that. It's a travesty what happened out there at Sarco. And now the status quo, what it's out there now, is it's a polluted site that the public hasn't had access to for 25 years. And now there's all this litigation about whether they'll be able to, sell off the assets from the, a Sarco company, and they're trying to split that along. They've got to clean it up. Right now it's the status quo. It's a monstrous eyesore in the city, and right between North Tacoma and Ruston. So now my understanding of it is it's monitored by the EPA, and they're very, very. It's part of like a settlement agreement between them. So, and they're out in the site all the time, and I appreciate the concern about the pollution and things, but it's one of the most monitored sites that it's out there. I'm on the North End Neighborhood Council also, and it needs to be cleaned up, and so I'm actually for cleaning it up. I remember I first saw the design of it, of what they're going to have, and I was very skeptical at first. I said, oh, what is this going to be? I expected it to be some kind of suburban build out, and if it's built out like their model is right now, it'll be probably one of the best developments, if not the best development since in Tacoma since probably 1940s. It's probably the first urban village, really, that's been built since World War II.
And I think it's great that we have an idea of what that spot could be. What certainly concerns me right now is the cleanup, and what I've been hearing is that workers there who have not been told exactly what they're digging up and cleaning up have been affected by some of that pollution. They're not wearing face